This documentary examines Emperor Haile Selassie I's significant impact on Ethiopia and African geopolitics through his reign, blending tradition with modernity and leading Ethiopia through colonial resistance and progress. It explores his life from nobility to global prominence, leadership challenges, and lasting legacy, structured in detailed chapters for a comprehensive understanding. Birth and family background in Ethiopia. Born on July 23, 1892, in the small village of Ejarsa Goro, near the ancient city of Harar, Lij Tafari Makonnen, who would become Emperor Haile Selassie I, entered a world steeped in historical richness. His lineage was noble, tracing back to the esteemed Solomonic dynasty, positioning him in a lineage believed to be descended from King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. This noble birth set the stage for a life intertwined with Ethiopia's royal and political narratives. Cultural and political environment. The Ethiopia into which Tafari was born was a mosaic of diverse cultures, languages, and religions, standing as a unique Christian enclave in a predominantly Muslim region. The late 19th century was a significant transformation, with Ethiopia navigating the complexities of maintaining its sovereignty against European colonial ambitions. This era was marked by political intrigue, alliances, and conflicts, providing a fertile ground for a future leader like Tafari to learn the art of governance and diplomacy in a rapidly changing world. Education and early influences. Tafari's early education was infused with traditional Ethiopian teachings, Christian theology, and exposure to the emerging ideas of governance and modernity. Mentored by prominent figures in Emperor Menelik II's court, he was groomed in statecraft, military tactics, and leadership. His upbringing blended ancient Ethiopian traditions and a progressive outlook towards the future. This unique educational background laid the foundation for his visionary leadership, imbuing him with a deep sense of duty towards his country and its people. Early political career and roles in the Ethiopian government. His quick advancement characterized Lij Tafari Makonnen's political rise in Ethiopia due to his intelligence and diplomacy. His early roles, including governorships, were strategic, enhancing his alliances and understanding of Ethiopia's diversity. His 1911 marriage to Mennen Asfaw, a political and personal alliance, strengthened his royal claim and power base. Tafari's relationship with Emperor Menelik II also significantly influenced his ascent, positioning him as a respected and progressive leader, eventually leading to his role as regent and heir to the throne. The socio-political landscape of Ethiopia in the early 20th century. At the turn of the 20th century, Ethiopia distinguished itself as a sovereign state in a predominantly colonized Africa. Amidst a backdrop of ancient monarchy and modern ambitions, Ethiopia navigated internal conflicts and external pressures. The nation's diverse ethnic and linguistic composition posed governance challenges, necessitating insightful and deeply attuned leadership to Ethiopia's cultural diversity. Challenges of modernization and resistance to colonialism. Ethiopia's path to modernization, led by Menelik II and Haile Selassie, intertwined the preservation of traditions with the introduction of modern governance, education, and infrastructure. Facing colonial pressures, Ethiopia's leadership maintained sovereignty with diplomatic skill, embodying a strong national identity. Tafari's progressive vision aimed to modernize while honoring Ethiopia's heritage, focusing on educational reforms, infrastructural improvements, and centralized governance to unite diverse regions, reflecting Ethiopia's historical role as a beacon of African independence amid colonial challenges. Coronation and early years as emperor. Haile Selassie's 1930 coronation ushered in a transformative period for Ethiopia, focusing on modernization through administrative centralization, educational enhancement, and infrastructure development. His early reign emphasized Ethiopia's global presence and internal improvement to foster a progressive and unified nation amidst global tensions. Domestic policies and modernization efforts. Emperor Haile Selassie's domestic policy focused on modernizing Ethiopia through comprehensive reforms. He introduced Western-style education and legal systems, improved public health services, and began infrastructural development, including road construction and urban planning. These efforts aimed to alleviate poverty, reduce regional disparities, and foster national unity. However, Selassie's modernization programs often met resistance from traditionalist elements within Ethiopian society, creating a complex interplay between progress and preservation of Ethiopia's ancient cultural and social structures, social, economic, and political challenges. Selassie's tenure faced hurdles, including societal balancing among diverse groups, economic development challenges, and political strife from internal dissent and Italian threats. His leadership, marked by diplomacy and strategic compromises, shaped his enduring legacy. International relations and diplomacy. Under Emperor Haile Selassie, Ethiopia took a significant step onto the global stage by joining the League of Nations in 1923. This membership marked the nation's commitment to international diplomacy and cooperation. As one of the few independent African states, Ethiopia represented the voice and aspirations of a continent mainly under colonial rule. Selassie's engagement with the League was a strategic move to secure Ethiopia's sovereignty, positioning it as a key player in early 20th century geopolitics and a defender of collective security. Haile Selassie's diplomatic endeavors and state visits. Emperor Haile Selassie was a visionary diplomat who recognized the importance of global relations for Ethiopia's independence and development. He embarked on numerous state visits, meeting world leaders and fostering diplomatic ties. These tours showcased Ethiopia's culture and progress, building alliances and garnering support against colonial encroachment, particularly from Italy. Selassie's diplomatic efforts highlighted his adeptness in international politics and his commitment to asserting Ethiopia's place as a sovereign and respected member of the global community. The impact of international relations on Ethiopia. The international relations pursued by Haile Selassie profoundly impacted Ethiopia. Through his diplomatic engagements, Ethiopia secured support and recognition on various fronts, enhancing its geopolitical standing. This period saw Ethiopia navigating the complexities of colonial pressures, asserting its voice against imperialism. However, the League's failure to effectively support Ethiopia during the Italian invasion in 1935 revealed the limitations of international guarantees, reshaping Selassie's approach to global diplomacy and highlighting the challenges faced by smaller nations in the international arena. Background and causes of the Second Italo-Ethiopian War. The Second Italo-Ethiopian War was rooted in Italy's imperial ambitions and the desire to avenge its previous defeat at Adwa in 1896. Mussolini's fascist regime, seeking to expand its colonial empire, targeted Ethiopia, one of the few independent African nations. Emperor Haile Selassie's modernization efforts and Ethiopia's strategic location made it a significant prize for Italy. This conflict, ignited in 1935, was not just a territorial dispute, but a clash between imperialism and the right to national sovereignty. Course of the war and Ethiopian resistance. Despite significant military disadvantages, Haile Selassie led Ethiopian forces in a determined resistance against the Italian invasion, utilizing guerrilla tactics and local terrain knowledge. However, Italy's advanced weaponry and air superiority ultimately overpowered Ethiopia. The conflict drew global attention to the stark realities of modern warfare and the fight for sovereignty. Exile in England and efforts to regain the throne. After Addis Ababa's fall in 1936, Haile Selassie sought refuge in England, symbolizing anti-fascism and advocating for Ethiopia's sovereignty. Despite his compelling League of Nations speech against the invasion and chemical warfare, he received limited support. In exile, he tirelessly worked to sway diplomatic and public opinion, setting the stage for Ethiopia's liberation. Post-war era and continued reforms. Post-World War II, Haile Selassie spearheaded Ethiopia's rebuilding, focusing on infrastructure repair, economic revival, and institutional restoration, aiming to foster a modern Ethiopia while reinforcing national identity and sovereignty. Efforts in modernization and development. Post-war, Haile Selassie intensified Ethiopia's modernization, focusing on education and industrial and agricultural advancements to build a self-reliant nation. His strategy involved broadening education, enhancing infrastructure, and fostering economic diversity, aiming for development that honors Ethiopia's traditions while navigating global integration. Social and political reforms and challenges therein. Haile Selassie enacted social and political reforms in the post-war era, including Ethiopia's first constitution in 1955, to modernize governance while preserving monarchy elements. These efforts to enhance civil liberties and judicial fairness encountered opposition from traditionalists and the challenge of ethnic and regional inequalities, illustrating the difficulties in merging tradition with modernity during Ethiopia's transformation. Haile Selassie on the global stage. As African nations sought independence in the mid-20th century, Haile Selassie became a key figure, symbolizing resistance to colonialism and championing African unity. His leadership offered a blueprint for liberation movements, supporting anti-colonial efforts and promoting Pan-African solidarity. Engagement with global leaders during the Cold War. During the Cold War, Emperor Haile Selassie skillfully balanced Ethiopia's interests between the East and West, aiming to preserve independence and gain development support. He adeptly secured aid and diplomatic favor from both blocs, showcasing his diplomatic finesse in navigating global political tensions. Contributions to the establishment of the Organization of African Unity. Haile Selassie's legacy in Africa was the founding of the Organization of African Unity, OAU, in 1963, promoting unity and cooperation among African nations. His leadership was crucial in establishing the OAU's headquarters in Addis Ababa, turning it into a central forum for continental issues, conflict mediation, and decolonization advocacy. Controversies, overthrow, and legacy. Emperor Haile Selassie's era was marked by progress, but also faced criticism for autocracy and handling of human rights, including responses to dissent and famines. The tension between traditional governance and demands for democracy highlighted challenges in addressing the needs of a diverse and evolving society. The 1974 Revolution and the fall of the monarchy. In 1974, dissatisfaction due to famine, unemployment, and government inaction led to a revolution, ending Emperor Haile Selassie's rule. The Derg, a military junta, took over, signifying a dramatic shift in Ethiopia's political scene and reflecting broader African demands for change. This event closed a historic chapter, marking the fall of one of the world's oldest monarchies and concluding Selassie's impactful reign. Reflection on the controversies surrounding his rule. Haile Selassie's legacy weaves through achievements and controversies, balancing his modernizing impact and African unity advocacy against critiques of autocracy and handling domestic issues. His reign's complexity, viewed within Ethiopia's and Africa's socio-political dynamics, sparks debate among historians, reflecting on leadership challenges in blending tradition with modernity in a changing world. Haile Selassie's legacy in Ethiopia and Africa. Haile Selassie's legacy is complex and lasting, with significant contributions to Ethiopia's modernization and a strong stance against African colonialism. He led reforms in education, infrastructure, and governance, and played a crucial role in establishing the Organization of African Unity, advocating for African sovereignty and unity. His support for Pan-Africanism and anti-colonial movements has profoundly influenced African history. Global impact and the rise of Rastafarianism. Haile Selassie's global influence reached into cultural and religious spheres, notably as a messianic figure in Rastafarianism, a movement born in 1930s Jamaica. His symbolic role in this movement, which focuses on the African diaspora's fight against oppression and the quest for identity, showcases his wide-reaching impact, underscoring the deep connections between history, culture, and religion across communities worldwide. Historical evaluations and contemporary perspectives. Haile Selassie's legacy is viewed through varied lenses, from praise for his modernization efforts and African independence advocacy to critiques of his governance and human rights. His reign, marked by significant change, continues to provoke debate among historians, reflecting the intricacies of leading through times of transition. Selassie's story highlights the balancing act of melding tradition with progress and navigating the interplay between national and global interests. Summarizing the life and impact of Haile Selassie. Haile Selassie's life reflects significant achievements and challenges, marking a pivotal period in Ethiopian and African history. His reign, intertwined with the quest for independence, modernization efforts, and global political dynamics, leaves a legacy of progress and controversy. His impact invites ongoing discussion, shedding light on the complex history of a nation and continent at a historical juncture. Final thoughts on his complex legacy and place in history. Haile Selassie's historical significance is both enigmatic and profound. Reflecting on his tenure, we see a leader who steered his nation through monumental changes, leaving a legacy of acclaim and critique. His story exemplifies the complexity of leadership and the lasting influence of historical figures, encouraging a deeper exploration of history's subtleties and the everlasting marks made by pivotal leaders. Conclusion. Thank you for exploring Emperor Haile Selassie's life and legacy with us. As we conclude, we invite you to reflect on the insights from his complex story of leadership and transformation. If you found this journey enlightening, please like, subscribe, and follow our channel for more engaging historical content. Your support enables us to share more captivating stories. Thank you for your interest and engagement.